Hey everyone, welcome to this video about DEFCON Safemode. Thank you very much to everyone that's been so kind and really patient with me as I'm taking a bit of a summer break. I'm actually starting to write my PhD thesis now, so the videos might get a bit more on the 2-weekly schedule rather than having the long videos, just because it better fits with kind of my workload at the moment. It's quite stressful, not gonna lie to you. But you know what? It's summer, and you know what that means? That means DEFCON, that means Black Hat, that means Hacker Summer Camp. But in case you didn't know, there's a pandemic on. So quite a lot of these conferences have gone online. And you know what that means? It means they are free. There is so much free cybersecurity knowledge going at the moment. It's honestly really exciting. So I'm going to talk to you today about DEFCON Safemode, and specifically what you should be watching for bug bounty hunters. You know, what talks are going on in all of the villages, how does DEFCON work, all those cool things. So, let's take a look here. So what is DEFCON? So DEFCON is an annual conference hosted in Vegas. I went last year, this is my photo I took. I didn't take many photos of DEFCON, but this is a banner. So, you know, I was struggling to find photos. And it hosts hackers from really all kinds of different backgrounds. You know, it's not just even people who do like penetration testing and legal hacking. There's actually people who we might consider a bit illegal hackers. We've got people from the government, academics, who all kind of come together for this really cool community-led conference. The meme is to not bring your phone unless it's in a lockbox, covered in concrete, buried 6 foot outside the conference. And really what's happened is because of coronavirus, they can't run it this year because it's quite obviously dangerous to run any kind of conference this year. So it's been moved online, and usually you'd pay $300, but this year it's free, which is fantastic. So how does DEFCON really work? So DEFCON has this main conference, and it's got Sky Talks, which are these kind of more secret conferences, more secret talks that are kind of limited in number. But really most people are going for the villages. Now the villages are like little mini conferences focused around one topic or the idea of one topic. So we've got the AI Village, AppSec, Aviation, Blockchain, Biohacking, Blue Team, Car Hacking, Cloud, Crypto and Privacy, Data Duplication, Hardware, so many villages. And really the best ones for bug hunting are going to be the Red Team Village and obviously the AppSec Village. Those are the two main ones. But you know what? There's some really nice niche ones. If you've ever wanted to know about, you know, how to hack a satellite, the Aviation Village is hacking satellites. And planes and all kinds of stuff. And then you have car hacking and hardware hacking. So depending on what you kind of are interested in, even outside of like bug hunting, there are some really just cool cybersecurity talks. Of course, we have lockpicking, which is a classic InfoSec conference talk. So what's really special about 2020? Usually DEFCON is $300 in cash. You show up at the hotel, you pay the cash, they give you a badge. This year it's free. Now you can find it on Twitch, YouTube, there's torrents, and usually people go to DEFCON to have this amazing opportunity to access this new research before anyone else is in the general public. But in fact, this year, because it's free and online, you don't have to pay for it. You can go and get all of this really cool, really professional knowledge for free. And it starts tomorrow. So this video is going up on Wednesday. I'm recording it on Monday. And it ends on Sunday. So I really wanted to make some suggestions of interesting talks and villages and what you should kind of check out if you're interested in bug hunting. So first I'm going to talk about specifically bug hunting talks, and then just the interesting ones. So how do you get the most out of DEFCON, or really any conference? Step 1 is to plan the talks you want to listen to, and really have a goal in mind when you listen to them. Don't just go, that sounds interesting. Have an idea of what you want to watch and why you want to watch it. Then you can start to prioritize. A lot of the talks will be happening at the same time. So you can go, okay, that's something I want to watch live, especially if you're looking at exploits. Watching them live can be really, really useful because it gives you that little edge before it gets the general public gets uploaded. And you can kind of organise them by watch live and watch later. The next thing is don't listen passively. always be taking notes, even if they're super vague, even if it's just the general theme. Like, oh, this talk was about hacking Android apps in this way. When you listen passively, you engage your brain. And when you engage your brain, you're actually going to be thinking about what you're listening to. Next one is to get involved. There's Discord groups for all of the villages, but more than that, you have friends. And if you don't really know anyone in InfoSec, come join my Discord. I put a link in the description. And you can chat to them about it, and just your understanding will be so much greater when you have a discussion about it, either with people you know or even people you don't. Really getting involved in that community and having that networking opportunity. Networking is so, so important in InfoSec. And the next advice is really engage with speakers. As a speaker, I can tell you, I love talking about myself. But really, like, asking questions, even just a nice little thanks for your talk, it was really interesting, can really, start that conversation with a speaker, and do the networking side of things. And also it means that you're engaging in the conference. You're not just watching it passively like a YouTube video, but instead you're really getting the most out of that talk. And when you have these discussions and ask questions, you open up your own imagination. You have new ideas of how to do things, how to approach stuff, especially if you're going to be talking about exploits. Are you going to be scanning for exploits now? What exploits are you going to be scanning for? How are you going to scan for them? Having those kind of discussions can really give you an edge up on bug hunting. Right, so let's have a chat about the bug hunting talks. These are talks which specifically relate to bug hunting that I've kind of picked up. Some of them will be quite directly related, and some will be kind of more thematically related. So first we're going to talk about the main track here. So the main track is DEFCON's main track. It's the main one they offer. It's the big talks. And there's two talks here. One is about Node.js ecosystem. And that would be, I think, really useful for talking about, exploiting Node.js specifically. And again, we have stuff about template security. Templates are really often used in web apps, these templating engines. So having these two kind of vectors, if you like, attack vectors in your repertoire are going to be really useful, because you're going to come across them more and more. So especially with looking at kind of RCEs, a lot of them are kind of more blue team focused, so they're like how to prevent them. But you can learn a lot by just listening to what the blue team is talking about, and stealing their ideas. So that's the main track. AppSec. So the AppSec Village has some really, really cool bug hunting talks this year. We've got stuff on Android, and my favourites is APIs. There's one on the API Security Top 10, which might be more like my video on it. And my videos and APIs, so that might be if you kind of feel like you have a good grasp of it, that might not be like super suitable, but definitely Android. Like you guys, since I've made the iOS video, I've got non-stop requests for Android, and Android is coming, I promise. But these are some really cool talks. The one on JSON Web Tokens, JWT, is being done by Sniff, who runs Pentester Lab. And he's doing this talk on these web tokens, which are often used for authorization. So if you're really interested in that kind of web app stuff, these are some great ones. We also have stuff on web shell hunting, which is more of a Recon focused talk. And then one on burnout, because actually it's really important to not just consider kind of technical talks, but also a lot of the professional talks that happen. So, Red Team Village. Bug Hunter's methodology. If you've missed Jason Haddock's talk about this, you are, quite frankly, missing out. I'm sorry. But it's on again. You should definitely go check this one out. We've got the one by Nahamsek, which is Knock Knock Who's There, identifying assets in the cloud, and lovely, another Recon talk. We have yet another Recon talk on mechanizing the methodology, which is about automating Recon and testing tools. So if you're interested in Recon specifically, those are some 3 really good talks to check out. There's one here that I picked out, which was the student roadmap to becoming a penetration tester. I know a lot of people who watch me are in university or in school and who really want to become, like, use bug hunting as a way to improve their skills as they go through, like, a cybersecurity degree. That should be really interesting for you folks, and to really check that out and learn about these kind of roadmaps and what you should be learning next. And then I picked up this one about Kubernetes. Word I've only ever seen written down, which is about a vulnerable cluster environment. So quite a lot of applications now run on these clusters instead of and in the cloud. So really getting the experience of dealing with it and dealing with a vulnerable environment can be great, especially as more of these things end up being online and on cloud-based systems rather than on a single server. And as well, learning about cloud security. I looked at BugCrowd's recent report, and cloud security was really low on people's skill list. So if you want to skill up, cloud security could be a way forward. And then, it skipped to the end. Not good. And then we have the Red Team training sessions. So here we have 2 training sessions. One is on AMAS. Only ever seen it written down, which is a Recon tool. So if you're interested in learning about Recon, again, looks like a really good talk. And one's on hacking web applications, which, if you watch my video, might be a bit lower in difficulty, but might be really useful. I'm not really sure. There's not an awful lot of detail that I can find about them specifically, but they're ones that really kind of stood out, and they seem to be quite separate from the talks where they're like new knowledge to kind of 101 stuff. IOT Village. So again, one of the things I think is really important in DEFCON is talking about technologies that you wouldn't normally be exposed to in bug hunting. Quite a lot of time we hack web apps. And what's really important is that actually IoT devices are becoming more and more common, and we're going to see them pop up in the in bounty tables. So I picked out these kind of 101 talks. First is about IoT hacking in real life. One is about building a hardware lab and getting started. And the next one is actually about remote attacks and data exfiltration, which should be really interesting for bug bounty specifically, because a lot of the time we deal with bugs as a remote attacker and seeing what we can do. But I picked out these because I just thought they looked pretty interesting talks, especially for learning like a unique skill that not many other people have. When we think about bug bounty, learning a unique skill can be really important. The Payment Village. So the Payment Village is new this year. It wasn't there last year. And they have a talk called Fear and Loathing in Payment Bug Bounty. Once again, there wasn't an abstract for this one, and the Payment Village seems to be more point of sale, ATMs, kind of the physical hardware about payments. But there was one on payment gateways, which looked interesting, but I didn't include it because I didn't know. It looked more blue team than red team to me. But there is something that had the word bug bounty in it, so that should be an interesting one. But they didn't have any more information, so we'll see what that one ends up being. And finally here, the Ethics Village. So I have said in the previous few minutes ago that it's not just the technical talks you should be listening to at DEFCON. There's also quite a lot of just professional skills that you should be listening to. And this is one of the ones I picked out as being really important, because often when people find a bug and someone refuses to pay out or they take too long, people end up kind of extorting them by saying, if you don't do this, I'm going to release the bug. I'm not making a comment on what the ethics of that ends up being. And by I say extortion, I mean not necessarily like the illegal type, but just as a way to describe the behaviour. I'm not making a moral judgment on it. But I thought this talk about ethically disclosing things, especially if people aren't paying a bounty, could be really interesting. And, I may be getting a PhD, but I'm not actually a doctor of philosophy. I'm a doctor of philosophy of computers. So I thought this one would be quite interesting. But that's kind of it on bug bounty specific sessions. And obviously these are way across all different days, and some of them conflict. But you should pick out what you think is interesting. I'm just kind of showing some interesting talks, and if you find them interesting, go ahead and listen to them. So I want to talk about stuff that I just thought was neat, not necessarily that are bug bounty related, just things that I was like, wow, that could be interesting. And especially, you know, when we look at the previous slides, we're like, okay, we want to look at the specific ones related to bug bounty. There's way more to InfoSec than bug bounty, and actually listening to something that's kind of outside what you usually do can be a real big thing in finding unique bugs, because you unleash that creativity. The most valuable thing to finding bugs is not your technical skills, but your ability to be creative. And if you listen to a bunch of these, you'll end up kind of picking up those skills. So the first one here was the car hacking village. So there are bug bounty programs where you have cars. The big one I'm thinking of is Tesla on Bugcrowd. But I really wanted to show off the car hacking village because they've got some really good car hacking 101 talks. Again, we're looking at hardware, CAN buses, Bluetooth, and it seems like a great place to get started if this is something you want to get into, especially if you want to kind of do InfoSec as just like a regular job. Getting something like car hacking in your repertoire can be really, really good. And learning hardware hacking as well, it just rounds you off as not just a web application hacker. The voting village. I don't know if you know, but there's an election coming up. And voting and voting machines are kind of on everyone's mind. This village always makes the Americans a bit nervous because they get children to hack voting machines. But there's some really, really great talks this year about the election and the pandemic and interference and cyber warfare. So if you want to talk about kind of these bigger issues in cybersecurity, the voting village is going to be really good this year. It's going to be really, really interesting, I think. Career hacking. Sorry, I'm using a new keyboard and I keep pressing end. So this is something I picked up when I was doing some research and I didn't even know was a thing. But there are some really interesting talks coming out of this village. So this is all about hacking your career, but more specifically like talking about how to get a job and CVs and resumes and starting a company and dealing with interviews. Now, I know quite a lot of people want to do bug bounty as a job, but if you decide that actually you're using bug bounty as a way to get into security, this could be really useful. And even if you're doing bug bounty, looking at what it takes to start a company can be really useful, because a lot of bug bounty hunters end up running their own company on the side to get kind of more consistent income. So I picked out a few talks that I thought were really interesting from this one. From Barista to Cybersecurity Pro, Breaking the Entry-Level Barrier. The Key Ingredients for Job Interviews. But I'm Still Searching, which is about job hunting during the pandemic. And What It Takes to Start a Company, which is about entrepreneurship. So these are some talks that I thought looked really interesting from the Career Hacking Village. The Aerospace Village. Now I gotta say, I know a lot of engineers. A lot of my friends are engineers. And one thing they all get excited about, and if you ever know anybody who has a degree in aerospace engineering, they're all crazy about space. They love space. So I've been following the Aerospace Village, specifically the stuff about hacking satellites. And it's way over my head. Like, I'm not an engineer. I am a computer science person. I am a programmer. I make the code do the stuff. But they have some really great intro talks. So there's stuff on like flight mechanics, there's stuff on hacking satellites, there's stuff on hacking air traffic control. It's kind of scary, I'm not gonna lie. Like they have one talk was on how people react to planes being hacked. Another talk was like on the introduction to orbital mechanics. So this one looks really, really cool. And on Twitter, I've been seeing a lot of the satellite hacking CTF that they're doing with the Department of Defense. And that looks cool. Like, people have these, like, crazy setups to actually talk to the satellite. It's amazing. And the two more villages, which I couldn't actually find any information on, they didn't have a schedule. Now, I'm recording this on Monday. I did the research over the weekend. So they might have had something by now. I don't really know. And that's the Cloud Village and the Recon Village. Now, again, cloud is a great skill to get into, especially as more and more stuff goes on the cloud. and really understanding what the security weaknesses are to stuff being in the cloud more than, you know, data exposure. You know, people often think about, oh, AWS keys and AWS buckets, but actually there's a ton more vulnerabilities there that can be really, really interesting. And the other one was the Recon Village. I know a lot of people are really interested in Recon, and they're doing kind of OS in addition to Recon, but I thought that was good, something worth having a look at. Seems really interesting. Seems like you folks might like it, so I thought I'd show them off. And that's it. That is my recommendations for DEFCON. I've included every single link below. So if you want to look at a specific talk, you can. If you want to look at specific villages, you can. I've also written out the entire schedule in the description as well. If you want something, it's probably in the description. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this interesting, and I hope you have a good DEFCON weekend. Like, I'm going to be probably tweeting about some of my thoughts about what I listen to. I'll be on Discord as well. I'll probably open up a channel for DEFCON discussion. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.